So now I'm still in pain, and I'm still running up the massive healthcare bill. So like our system is on so many levels. Ours is like, in the developed world, we literally have like the worst healthcare system. I would rather have no cost and still like wait. Technologies that we have are probably better than a lot of countries. I don't want to say like most in the developed world, but like in terms of like the quality of care, we probably are up there, right? I'm not going to lie about that, but in terms of like literally every other aspect of the healthcare system, we are behind the rest of the developed world. The Democratic Party right now is probably closer to like the 2016 progressive movement than they've ever been in the entirety of the in the entirety of the Democratic Party's existence. What do they mean that the party hasn't moved left? What does he mean they haven't moved in foreign policy? Oh, well, like the idea of ever getting into any kind of conflict anywhere in the entire world for any reason whatsoever is antithetical to what they think the Democratic Party or the progressive wing of the party should ever push for. And it doesn't matter if, you know, Russia and China are actively trying to ruin our country, or, you know, like it doesn't matter what other countries are doing abroad. The United States should never get involved in anything. They're like ultimate isolationists. Okay, let's see what Kyle Kulinski has to say. And please, for the love of God, can this guy like go back to having the black hair? The blonde, it's getting to me, guys. The blonde is getting to me.
Brianna Joy Gray really got into it with her co-host Robbie over on the show. Rising. It looks like there's been some bubbling resentment underneath the surface for quite a while here. Certainly appears like that as an outsider looking in on this. But this moment here went viral because Brianna's fed up, and then Robbie in turn is even more fed up, and he tries to cut the break, but the argument goes on. But this is a masterclass in deconstructing right-wing garbage. Let's watch.
I don't know that most Republicans feel like the Democratic Party is actually trying to get their votes.
You heard Joe Biden. He put ads out saying Nikki Haley voters come to me. He put an ad out saying
policies that they support. The Democratic Party has moved
his border
far
policy?
to the left.
His border
time.
policy?
Wait, I'm sorry.
Most Republicans feel
Having trouble
in
concentrating.
deconstructing right-wing garbage. Let's watch.
I don't know that most Republicans feel like the Democratic Party is actually trying to get their votes.
You heard Joe Biden. He put ads out saying Nikki Haley voters come to me. He put an ad out saying
policies that they support. The Democratic Party has moved
his border
far
policy?
to the left.
His
over
border
time.
policy?
Overall, if you go on most issues, maybe not the border. If you go on most issues, the Democratic
There is
Party
a whole
has moved
suite.
way.
I mean, Robbie, that's just totally not true. There's nothing about that that's true. The idea that the Democrats have moved left, I wish they've moved left. A lot of us on the left are begging for them to move left. On healthcare,
The Democratic Party right now is probably closer to like the 2016 progressive movement than they've ever been in the entirety of the in the entirety of the Democratic Party's existence. What do they mean that the party hasn't moved left? What do you want? What do you want? I'm not going to hold you like this the entire time, okay? Everybody say hi to Waffles. Everybody say hi to Waffles. Ow, you need to have your claws trimmed, because damn. No, you're not jumping onto the shelf. You're not doing it. Show cat? All right. We'll show cat. This is Waffles. She is actually a perfect cat. All of our other cats have problems. This cat has 0 problems. She is a perfect cat. The worst thing that she does is be too needy and too desperate for attention. But that's barely a problem. It's very easy to give her attention. All right?
they haven't moved left. On wages, they haven't moved left. On foreign policy, they certainly...
At the national level, they tried to implement a minimum wage increase, but they weren't able to because of the Republicans. They couldn't get and also what's his name, the guy for Manchin and Sinema. So they didn't have the votes to do that. Guess what? If you want something like that to be passed, since they put it in the bill that they wanted to pass, if you want those things to pass, better elect more Democratic senators. If you want universal health care, you probably need to elect more Democratic senators. Pat, don't knock anything over. But like every single policy, I feel like, with maybe the exception of the border right now because of the problems going on there, the Democrats have moved left on. What does he mean they haven't moved in foreign policy? Oh, well, like the idea of ever getting into any kind of conflict anywhere in the entire world for any reason whatsoever is antithetical to what they think the Democratic Party or the progressive wing of the party should ever push for. And it doesn't matter if, you know, Russia and China are actively trying to ruin our country, or, you know, like it doesn't matter what other countries are doing abroad. The United States should never get involved in anything. They're like ultimate isolationists. They're populists. They're isolationists. All they want to do is silo America off so that we can artificially increase the wages of people here, not understanding that if you artificially increase the wages here, we're also artificially increasing the prices of everything here, right? They think that the idea that we should ever do anything involving like military power abroad, even if China and Russia are like actual evil, satanic, disgusting, you know, regimes that are actively trying to colonize other areas of the earth, not a good enough reason to try to project our power elsewhere. The border bill was basically a move to call the GOP's bluff. Democrats knew the Republicans would never sign Biden's border bill because they wouldn't have anything to campaign on. No. It was not just to call the GOP's bluff. If they wanted to do that, they probably would have just written a bill themselves and then put it up on the floor, right? But they had several Republicans, I think, working on whatever committee was drafting that bill, right? This is like a reskin argument that the Republicans make for why they didn't vote on it, because you're essentially saying that, oh, well, we put out this bill. We had no intention of it actually going through. It was just a political stunt, right? The Republicans will say this is just a political stunt for the Democrats to get political favor because this bill does nothing to solve the border. Democrats were trying to get that through. They were wheeling and dealing to get that through. They were trying to attach it to the Ukraine and Israel aid, which they arguably thought was more important than the border bill. So that they were attaching the border bill on there so that people would vote for the Ukraine aid. I'm forgetting if Kyle stuck with the force the vote crowd. I'm pretty sure he did. But it's basically the same Trump policy, LOL, that Pelosi blocked. Well, neither of those bills would be effective at solving the crisis at the border. It could mitigate it a little bit. But the problem is, like, yeah, they did block it back then, but they drafted a bill that was like overwhelmingly in favor of what the Republicans wanted, right? Because they were trying to get the Ukraine aid passed. Like this is the legacy of Joe Biden's presidency is going to be the amount of stuff that he tried to compromise with the Republicans on. It's 7 years too late for that solution. Well, that solution wouldn't have helped back then either. The problem is and I'll show you a clip here in a second because Tron is reminding me. But the problem is that we need to fix the asylum system in the United States, because that's why people are coming over here and claiming asylum, even if they don't have legitimate asylum claims, because our asylum system is like, okay, well, you've claimed asylum. We now legally, by the laws of the United States that we passed when in our Congress back, I think in like the 50s or 60s, we have to let you in because this is just the way that we've always done asylum claims, right? If we change the way that we did asylum claims, then we could actually try to solve the current issue at the border, right? But nobody wants to do that. And I don't know why nobody wants to do that. I don't know why the Republicans haven't brought that up. But yeah, the border bill that just got demolished in the House for the same reason that they demolished the bill during Trump's presidency. It's partisanship. But for some reason, in this case, the partisanship is all on the Republican side because it's exactly what they wanted just a couple of years ago. Trump had the House and the Senate, and all he did was let Stephen Miller separate children from their parents. True. And then argue whether or not those kids should have, soap for their showers and toothpaste for their teeth. It's just a worse problem now. Haven't done nothing and reversed the policy. Only we want to go back to that policy you wrote 7 years ago. Here's the thing. The partisanship is there on both sides. All right. At a certain point, we have to stop caring about the partisanship. Like, oh, this will be a total own on the Democrats. This will be a total own on the Democrats. Oh, this will be a total own on the Republicans, right? Like, if you think that bill that you wrote 7 years ago would be helpful to mitigate issues at the border, then you should vote for it, right? Like, I'm super ultra giga tired of the hyper partisanship all over the place. I'm super done with it. From the Democrats and the Republicans. If Republicans put forward a bill that is good, even under a Trump presidency, they should vote for it. The Democrats should. Because we're not doing anything helpful. We're just stalling and allowing, places like Russia or China or Iran or North Korea or any of these states that are against us to go around and do whatever the they want. They have top-down directions for the country, and we can't even pass a law.
He has been pretty
much faster process.
Obviously, your fellow Republican Mitt Romney has been pretty outspoken, saying that the reason the bill is having difficulties right now is because Donald Trump wants it as a campaign issue, so he doesn't want any attempts to solve it to be successful. And in fact, former President Trump, today is slamming your work, specifically your work on the bill. Take a listen.
Just to correct the record, I did not endorse Senator Langford. He ran, and I didn't endorse him. This is a very bad bill for his career. I don't know how a Republican senator can actually put a thing like this forth.
So just to correct the record, Donald Trump did endorse you.
He did.
But regardless of that, why do you think he's going after you and this border bill, considering this is the most, and I've been in this town for a lot longer than you have, this is the most conservative immigration compromise that I have ever seen come to this level. Previous efforts under Bush and under Obama were far more permissive, far more liberal than this. Why do you think Trump's going after you?
Yeah, I don't know, obviously, other than he has a different job than I have right now. His job right now is running for president, and so he's trying to be able to manage that. And obviously a chaotic border is helpful to him in the process on that. If Donald Trump was president right now, let me be very clear, we would not have the chaotic border that we have right now. Joe Biden is not enforcing the border, even not just like Donald Trump.
I remember this clip. The political maneuvering, the razor's edge that he is tightrope walking right now to still support Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump is single-handedly tanking this bill, it's actually a masterclass in talking around getting cucked.
If Donald Trump was president right now, let me be very clear, we would not have the chaotic border that we have right now. Joe Biden is not enforcing the border, even not just like Donald Trump, not like Barack Obama. We have 6 times more people crossing the border now than we had under Barack Obama. So this president's clearly not enforcing the border. But for Donald Trump, he's focused on the campaign. I'm the lead Republican on the Homeland Security Border Management Committee, and so my focus is the national security focus. I'm going to do whatever I can to be able to secure the nation as fast as I can, regardless of election cycles. This is something Americans are looking for and have asked for a very long time. We have got to be able to secure the border. Yes, it's going to have to be bipartisan. It's the United States Senate. It always has to be bipartisan. So let's work together to be able to figure out where we can find common ground and actually solve an issue. We'll solve as much as we can, then start working on the next level.
So
just amazing maneuvering around getting by someone, but then not being able to criticize them.
Haven't moved left. On the border, they certainly haven't moved.
Would they be happy if your president was stood at the border with a gun? No. Like literally, there's never going to be any... The Republicans will never praise Joe Biden and the Democrats will never praise Donald Trump. Now, granted, my opinions are Joe Biden deserves some praise even from Republicans on some of the stuff that he's doing, and Donald Trump deserves zero praise for literally anything that he does literally ever. That's hyperbolic, but the idea that Trump has done like literally anything good for this country, the more I learn about like the social deterioration, like social cohesion deterioration, and then I look at Trump and I look at all of the Trump dick suckers and all of that shit. It's like, man, Trump has like actually been the single worst person, movement, and information source for this country in my entire lifetime. And I lived through the Iraq War, okay? It's just... There's nothing that this man says that is useful, that is helpful, that is non-divisive. He's talking about like prosecuting all of his political enemies the second that he gets into office if he wins again. He's talking about like how vote for him so that you can get like the cathartic retribution against the Democrats and all the people that have wronged him personally over the past 4 years. It's just insane. It's quickly becoming the opposite, with the left ruling and right being the financially growing economies. Wait, hold on. Like Florida, even while it was a swing state, even when it was under Democratic control, it still had one of the biggest populations. Basically, if you're a state and you have access to water, you're going to have a higher GDP than a state that doesn't have water. Texas is going to be like the biggest red state in terms of contributing to our GDP, but like Texas is keeping the entirety of like red state, GDP afloat. And yeah, like what Moist Sack said right there, like we're putting like Biden's policies are putting giant manufacturing plants into states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Arizona, I think in Alabama as well, like into a bunch of states that are red. Yeah, I mean, it's still dwarfed by California, dwarfed by New York, right? But since you hate Palestine so much, you actually moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, so that's a Trump win? No, I think that was a horrible move. And arguably is like the precipitation for the conflict, I think when did that happen? Because I know like pretty soon after that, there was a brief conflict with Gaza. And then I've heard lots of people make arguments about what was the inciting factor for October 7th, but a lot of people have said that that's one of the reasons. Like, I've never said that moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem was a good move.
Left. Sure, there's a handful of issues where they just did what's supposed to be basic democratic policies, like the NLRB, for example. Right? There's they brought 700,000 manufacturing jobs back. This is like basic.
Listen, I can't tell, Remy. I can't tell sometimes because there are so many people that will say some weird, deranged shit about what my positions are. Abbott's website is trying to claim Texas is the 8th largest economy. I'd love to see their math on that one. Well, no, hold on. Texas probably does have one of the largest economies in the entire United States. I don't think that's controversial at all.
Democratic politician stuff, or at least it should be. The idea that they've moved left, God, he's got online brainworms. That's my takeaway. His brain is just poisoned by dumb online debates.
If you go on most issues, maybe not the border. If you go on most issues, the Democratic
There is
Party
a whole
has moved
suite
way more
of policy. In what way? It's been worse on unions.
Look at charts.
On what? Cultural policy? It's not policy. That's just vibes. Oh, you hang a rainbow flag out outside the White House? What's that actually doing for poor and working class gay
Green
people
New
in this
Deal,
country?
etc.
What? Where's there a Green New Deal? Did Joe Biden pass a Green New Deal?
He said Green New Deal. They ran away from that at 5,000 miles an hour. It never happened. It's never going to happen. And
What was the Inflation Reduction Act, but like one of the largest green energy bills of all time? Like, it was the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a bad misnomer for it, granted. But like, my guy, do you know about any of the policies that you want to sit here and critique, like, at all? Or like, you should probably know a little bit about the policies that you want to critique. Yeah? This is a world ranking, not a state versus state. I also don't think that that's necessarily wrong for Texas to be. Texas GDP. Texas, our $2.5 billion. Let me see here. Oh my God, Cat, please. Does it say what the GDP? I mean, if the IMF is saying that Texas's economy is the 8th largest economy in the world, that probably is true. Search. Cat, what are you doing? Go away. Stop. Sorry, yeah, I'm getting stun locked by chat. I'm just interested.
Green New Deal, bro. They move left. Most of the Democratic politicians shit on the idea of a Green New Deal or don't bring it up at all. Never mind not voting on it and not passing it. Oh my God, this is like shooting fish in a barrel for Bree, man.
Did Joe Biden pass a Green New Deal?
They all talk in support of it.
Where? When? When did they vote in support of it? When did they actually act and push it? When did you see a single Biden ad talking about how important it is for him to pass a Green New Deal? Never, none.
Also, like the idea that like it has to be called the Green New Deal, and if it's not called the Green New Deal, then we're not going to say that he did anything good for the environment.
The Green New Deal all the
Joe
time.
Biden, when he was campaigning, the Joe Biden agenda has been the Joe Manchin agenda, and they're frankly proud of it.
Republicans can take comfort in the Democrats.
If the Joe Biden agenda was the Joe Manchin agenda, then why did Joe Manchin constantly cuck it? No, you're fine, Goldfish. Like, listen, if you say something that's interesting to me and I get derailed, that's my fault, okay?
Democrats don't accomplish all of the lofty societal transformations that they promised.
Lofty societal transformations, an overwhelming majority of Americans want there to be a wealth tax. This is not a partisan issue. The overwhelming majority of Americans want there to be universal health care. This is not a fringe leftist issue.
That's not necessarily true for either of those things. It depends on what you mean by a wealth tax. It depends on what you mean by universal health care. It depends on how you ask them that question. But these people are still going up based off of that like 2016 article that said that 80% of people in the United States want universal health care. Like, number one, that was 2016, okay, almost 10 years ago. And on top of that, the idea that people want a wealth tax in the United States, they want like a wealth tax insofar as they want people to tax the rich rather than tax them. That's true. But when you start talking about a wealth tax, a lot of that's going to fall onto people who are, you know, waiting on their grandparents' inheritance or their parents' like leaving stuff to them. Guess where wealth taxes come from?
To the radar, running down.
Too.
When 70% of Americans
mass
support
confiscation
something,
of wealth from other people is
I'm not doing
fringe.
this with you. When
You can't say it's a fringe issue. Immediately after she correctly points out it's an overwhelming majority of Americans, like 70%, that want a wealth tax. You can't then say, well, that's fringe. No, what you're saying is you personally don't like it, but you have the fringe position by definition. That's how numbers work. Oh my God. I'm frustrated.
It's insane to me.
Watching this.
70% of Americans support something.
It's insane to me that like they're still living in 2016. They're still living in 2016 before like the explanations for all of this shit came out or were like widely available or widely accepted.
Wealth from other people is
I'm not doing this with you. When 70%
okay,
of
I don't want to do it. More rising after this. Goodbye. Go.
When 70% of Americans
Oh my God. What a bitch ass move, man. That is the most bitch ass shit I've ever seen in my life.
It is a little bitch ass that he didn't have a single response for literally any of that. But like, I'm a liberal and I can push back on these ideas. You're a conservative. You can't like point out how the policies that you would support as a conservative are different from those of Joe Biden. It's just like it's illustrative of the idea that these people, these like news pundits on these like side shows on the internet are just wholly uninformed. They read off the teleprompter. They have like basic talking points, but they're not doing like any like helpful analysis.
Life. This is like, look, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt in this sense. It looks like his brain is just not functioning that well on this day. And I can say that because I've gone through that too. Some days you wake up, you're tired, you didn't have enough caffeine, you didn't sleep enough last night. You know, I'm doing a show in the morning. I've never been a morning person ever. My brain works way better the later it gets in the day, right? And sometimes my brain just doesn't work. It just doesn't. And you know, you're speaking, but you're just sort of going through the motions. You're not really connecting with your own words. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's in a moment like this. But for you to just Like, you just shut down because you have no logical responses. Oh, cut the break, go. That's weak, man. You know that's weak. That's as weak as it gets, bro. By the way, it continues. I love how they start like they're going to cut to break, and then they're just like, okay, Brown is still talking. Just keep it rolling, keep it rolling. Here we go.
When 70%
Okay,
of
I don't want to do it. More Rising after this. Goodbye. Go.
when 70% of Americans
By the way, the whole point of the show is to debate. So you can't, like, get triggered that there's a debate. You just,
Like, I feel like it used to be enough for me for, like, if there was supposed to be like a show that is supposed to show both sides of an issue, right? Like, we're going to give you the news and it's going to be one person on the left, one person on the right. That would be enough for me. But like at this point, I just don't think that that's enough. At this point, if you want to like represent the like general like large groups of people in the United States on what their like different opinions are, you're going to have a progressive, a like center left liberal, a center right conservative, and then one of these that think that everything is a conspiracy and the world is a Jason Bourne movie. Like, it's not enough. We don't have good representation in alt media, non-mainstream media of Democrat/liberal people, even if you're like fairly progressive like me, right? I don't really ever call myself a progressive because I get associated with people like Brianna Joy Gray or Kyle Kulinski. I don't ever call myself a progressive. In real life, when people ask me, I say I tell people I'm a liberal. I can't stand these people. I almost don't want to keep watching it.
This makes no sense. The whole point of the show is you're more on the right, she's more on the left. You guys are going to debate. And then you actually start to...
More on the left? This bitch is one of the craziest, like, purveyors of misinformation and skewed perspectives in the entire world. The fact that she is employed to give a left-leaning opinion on a major company's online alt media thing is insane to me. It's insane to me. I can't stand these people who want to like draw, like they want to equivocate. I'm using that right, correct? Equivocate. Use ambiguous language as to conceal the truth or avoid committing oneself. I guess yeah, equivocating. Like you're using ambiguous language here to equate this idea that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are essentially the same person, that Joe Biden agrees with the Republicans on basically any matter of policy. I just want people to be either more educated or more honest. I don't know which one Brianna Joy Gray needs to be. If I'm completely honest, I don't. I don't know if she's stupid or if she needs to be more honest. I don't have a good answer for that. But my God, does it need to, do we need like a massive change in the online political zeitgeist?
Debating, I don't like this. I'm gone. Okay, then go do a different show. Go talk about sports or some shit.
see, it's not fringe. And you can't just sit there and say it's fringe because you personally don't like it, Robbie. 70% of Americans support the policy. So my point is this.
70% of Americans do not support universal health care. That's if you ask them, do you think that everyone should have access to free or affordable healthcare in the United States? Something like 90% of people will say yes. Then you say, do you think that the government should provide free or affordable healthcare to those that like health coverage to those that can't afford it? You'll get like 75 to 80% yes. Do you think that the government should provide a health insurance option to compete with well, I guess that's kind of the same thing. Then if you ask, like, do you think that the government should have a system where I'm sorry, I'm struggling to come up with like a short way to ask this. Do you think that the government should have their own insurance plan and then have extreme or have high taxes on private insurance companies for healthcare? You'll drop down to like maybe 50%. And then after that, it's like, do you think that the United States should have a universal healthcare system and ban private healthcare insurance companies? And it drops to like 25 to 30%. 70% of Americans are in big left-leaning cities. No, but like this is like the total population. Like if you look at like that same poll that this stupid bitch is referencing, they ask all of these questions, but they only focus on that first one. Do you think that everyone should have access to free or affordable healthcare? And the answer is like overwhelmingly like 75 to 80% yes. But the idea that like people want to have universal healthcare in the way that they're envisioning it, where it's just like free at the point of service, right? Where it's fully taxpayer funded and there are no options or limited options in terms of private healthcare. Most people say no. Even in blue states, even in blue cities.
Joe Biden, universal healthcare.
That, depending on I'm sure most Americans think that healthcare should be provided to people. How we actually pay for that and what the policy. Ask them how much of them want Obamacare or socialized medicine. Then they get
We've been
very
talking
little support.
about billions of dollars going out the door for Israel.
He's such a nuanced troll here. Well, if you word the poll a very specific way, where you say socialized medicine, then actually they're against it.
Well, that's what you're advocating for. That's very specifically what you're advocating for. Do you not want socialized healthcare? And if you want socialized healthcare, and you agree that most people don't want socialized healthcare, then why the fuck are you going to make the argument? Why the fuck are you going to make the argument that most people want universal healthcare?
Yeah, but that poll is loaded and poisoning the well up front. If you ask people it in a neutral way, they saw.
If you ask them how I'm not even finished with my political science degree. One of the first things that you learn about is like constructing polls. One of the first things that you learn about is like the different ways in which you word polls. There is no true neutral way to word something so that you can get a totally unbiased answer. Because the way that you ask a question is always going to affect the way that people answer. Like here's a strong one for lefties. Do you think that people should be free to have sexual relations and relationships with anyone that they want? With anyone that they want. Most left-leaning people are going to say, yeah, gay people should be able to have a relationship with anyone they want. Trans people, lesbians, whatever. If you love someone, if you want to be in a relationship with that person, we shouldn't have sodomy laws. Yeah, I agree with that. I think people should be able to have relationships with anyone that they want, even sexual. Do you think that people should be able to have relationships, sexual relationships with anyone of any age? Ooh. Let's have some qualifiers on that then. Let's have some qualifiers on that, because I don't support, people under the age of 18 having sex with adults. Yeah, YouTube can't handle all of the massive chatting that we have going on right now. Based.
With universal healthcare.
It's something that you don't agree with.
By the way, first off, hey chat, how are you guys doing? I'm arguing with a little bit of stuff. I'm triggered a little bit, but how is YouTube chat doing? Kick chat, how are you guys doing? All right. Like the stream if you're watching on YouTube. All right. If you guys want to support me, we've just got word that I'm officially moving to DC. We have signed the lease and we're needing to save up money for that move. I also just had medical bills. If you guys want to support me, join as a member on the YouTube. That would be super awesome. We have 3 or 4 people in the membership program. We have 3 or 4 members on YouTube, and I want to bump that up, and then I want to be able to do some stuff for the members that are extra cool and extra special. So consider doing that, or using the donation link in my description. Because your boy's poor. I have massive medical bills after my surgery, etc., etc. Supporting the headline of a policy is not the same as supporting a policy. True. Calling Brianna a bitch. Why? Because she's a stupid, hyper-partisan, uneducated, dumb bitch. Because I cannot stand the framing of literally anything that she says. The idea that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are in any way similar. Whoa there, buddy. Listen, I'm sorry. They're like, I try to refrain again from using things that people might perceive as sexist when I'm talking about a female news pundit or content creator or anything like that. Generally try to, but in this case, these people are just like, I think that Brianna Joy Gray is a genuinely bad person in the first place. And then when you look at anything that she says in regards to politics, it is the most uninformed, like hyper partisan towards like leftism bullshit that you've ever seen in your entire life. I cannot stand this. See, now I'm all worried about the things I'm saying being taken in like the worst bad faith way possible. But like, she's a bad person. She is a propagandist. And I don't mean that in the neutral propaganda way. I mean that in the, she is trying to sell something to people that is false so that they will agree with her politically, but her ideas politically are dog shit. And she's lying. She's just not truthful. For the politically provoked segment, true.
But at no point did you say, how can we pay for that? Not once.
What do you? I don't.
We've been talking about, but you haven't questioned how we're going to pay for it. You said we shouldn't pay for it, but there's an expectation that when it comes to military spending, of course we can pay for it. The second
I don't think we can pay for it. No, we're running up. No, we cannot afford to do the military spending
about delivering for the health and welfare of the American people. That phrase comes up again.
That's not true at all.
Out of nowhere.
What did she say?
Spending. Of course we can pay. Questioned how we're going to pay for it. You said we shouldn't pay for it, but there's an expectation that when it comes to military spending, of course we can pay for it. The second
I don't think we can pay for it. No, we're running up. No, we cannot afford to do the military spending
about delivering for the health
and she's not even giving what his take is. Like, he's sitting there. No, I wouldn't say that. And then she just keeps on going with the straw man attack. And also, we should be funding our military because otherwise we're going to get left behind Russia and behind China, and those places are goddamn the worst places on earth. Like, they're actively against literally everything that the US holds dear, including the values that leftists think are important to them, like freedom of speech. They are against, freedom of the press. They are against having a rules-based world order where, like, the ICJ can bring claims of genocide against people. Even though like I'm very like pro-Israel in regards to what's going on right now. I'm not like fully in support of Israel. I obviously have criticisms, but like I don't think that the ICJ shouldn't ever look into what Israel is doing in Gaza. I think that the UN, the ICJ should be doing that. These people are unironically in support of places that, yeah, Western values. I'm sorry. Western values, the more that I learned about socialism, the more that I learned about like basically everything that happened during the Cold War, everything that happened leading up to the Cold War. Yeah, I'm sorry. Western values are better than whatever the they got going on over there.
welfare of the American people. That phrase comes up again.
That's not true at all. I
out
don't
of
think we can
nowhere.
afford, that's just absolutely misrepresenting my position. I do not think we can afford the military
Check the
spending we're
notes.
doing at all.
I would bet every dollar in my bank account that you haven't said, how are we going to pay for that one time in a year?
How are we going to pay? We
about,
can't pay for it, and we should. I don't want to raise
and
taxes
yet you've
to
not
pay
said
for the
that.
military spending.
You haven't said, how are we going to pay for it? Not a single time.
I mean, you're right. I've been preoccupied with, yes, we should not pay for it, but we also can't afford to do it, and
well, how
the
about you
military
stick
is
to
running up
we
our
should
deficit.
not pay for Medicare for all? Stick with that then. Sit here and stand by the notion that you think that we should not pay for Medicare for all. But most Americans,
because again, like the Medicare for all policy specifically is what people don't want. People don't want the Medicare for all policy. That is the policy that people don't want. The one that when you ask them about that policy in polling, they do not want it. When you offer like the idea of like the mixed kind of healthcare systems that you see in like Germany, Canada, et cetera, like those are much more popular in the United States. You can get way more support behind those ideas, and they're actually proven to be more effective than like the state-run Medicare for all style like healthcare systems like you get in England. Even though the healthcare system in England is slightly, I would say it's like, in terms of the pros and cons, it's a wash for like whether it's better or worse than the American system, but it is better for like, in terms of like average people being able to go and get healthcare and get checkups on a regular basis. It's not as good in terms of wait times and shit like that, you know? But I'm hard, like even the places that they suck off, that they want to like emulate 100%. I think Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, I don't think that they have like the Medicare for all model. I think the Medicare for all model is more extreme than even those places.
The country, our government, should not pay for Medicare for all. That seems to be your stance, as you framed it with respect to a bunch of other expenditures.
Right.
But
I don't want the massive bloat that we have in our education and health system and other to impact whether people can get care, like in other countries that have those arrangements where people wait in lines for care for weeks and months and years. In fact, coming to America.
It's literally like number one, waiting lines for care. Listen, I spent 4 days in the emergency room this month, okay? I was waiting in lines for the overwhelming majority of those visits. The overwhelming majority of the time that I was there, I think I spent nearly 24 hours just getting diagnosed with a kidney stone. And they ended up giving me a UTI. They didn't give me antibiotics after the surgery that were effective. So now I'm still in pain. And I'm still running up the massive healthcare bill. So like our system is on so many levels. Ours is like in the developed world, we literally have like the worst healthcare system. I would rather have no cost and still like wait than like do whatever the like completely deregulating the healthcare industry.
Oh my God. There's immense wait lines here too, bro.
True.
They just do a wallet biopsy before you get your care if you're wealthy.
The solution is not to move towards complete separation of government and economics. Sorry.
You're more likely to get it fast. If you're not, you might be. The idea, like he's trying to use the dumbest argument ever to make the case that the U.S. healthcare system is actually better than others. That's absurd. It's absurd.
The technologies that we have are probably better than a lot of countries. I don't want to say like most in the developed world, but like in terms of like the quality of care, we probably are up there, right? I'm not going to lie about that. But in terms of like literally every other aspect of the healthcare system, we are behind the rest of the developed world. Front Yard Shield brought up Hayek. Guess who's getting a 10-minute timeout? Oh, well, it won't let me do a 10-minute, so I guess... Oh, wait, no, I can. I can do 10 minutes.
Absurd. Every single objective, empirical...
Just do the European model? Well, which one? Like, if we're doing the European model, I don't want to do the NIH fucking British model. That shit's dog shit. but it's still better than what we got, but it's dog shit. I'd rather do like closer to what Germany has, or what like one of the Nordic countries. They're pretty good. France's is better than ours. Canada's is better than ours. But like there are multiple European models. I mean, I would like to, trust me, I want to do anything but the UK's, but like the support for that in the United States is just not there right now. Our bills are crazy. No, that's not why we do. Why ours are expensive. Ours is expensive because we don't have one healthcare system. We actually have like 5 to 6 healthcare systems, right? That are like not part of the government. We have because we also have we have 5 or 6 that are civilian, and then 3 that are military. There are like 3 different systems working within the VA to make the collective VA healthcare system, and there are like 6 different ones in the civilian market. And in the civilian market, you do have Medicare and Medicaid, but then you have like all these different. I'm sorry, like this is bureaucracy bloat, where the only reason that the healthcare is getting more and more expensive is because you have to like contact this part of the system, who are then going to contact that part of the system to tally up the total, who are then going to send it to the third system that are going to, it's just, it's bureaucratic bloat, but that's on the private market side, right? The research and development, yes, that's super true, right? But that doesn't affect the market of healthcare in terms of what we're getting, like when it comes to like the direct I don't know what the correct term is, like patient care or surgeries or something like that. That shouldn't be as expensive as it is. But because you have to go through like insurance companies, and then they have to go through different filing companies and payment processors, that increases the price like 1,000%. That's what like the major issue is. And it's just like an amalgamation of different things that came about kind of naturally through I think from like the end of World War II through the 80s, and that's when it kind of like fully solidified as it is right now.
Way of measuring it disproves what he's saying. Don't take my
yeah. If you make them pay for the amount of research equal to ours, right? Like the pharmaceutical companies and the like healthcare technology systems that we like fund. Yes, that's one thing, but that's not where the like price point for consumers, because those same systems get sold all over the world, right? And the price point for those people aren't as high as ours. Like I feel like I need to pull up. Maybe I'm like talking out of my ass. So we have medical tech company A. We have pharmaceutical company A, and no. And then we have like, one second. Can you guys even see that? Let me hide this for a second. And then we have like the point of care area, right? Like, so this is going to be like the hospital systems and shit like that, right? So the tech companies, the medical tech companies, they're going to make like, the CAT scans, right? And they want to make a more efficient CAT scan machine, right? CT scan machine, right? They're going to put a bunch of money into that. They're going to set a price point for it, and then they're going to sell it. But that's not where the price for this is. I mean, like, you might get an increase in price if you get a better CT machine, but so are the people in Norway, so are the people in Germany, because they're also buying that same CT machine, right? Same thing with the pharmaceutical companies. If they make a new vaccine, right? Now they're going to like pour a bunch of money into that, and they want to recoup their losses, right? And that's going to go to the consumer as well, to the hospital system, right? And the hospital system is then going to mark it up towards the consumer, right? But the funding for the research is not going to be directly passed on to the consumer like that. The real issue with like the point of care cost in the United States is largely to do with like bureaucratic bloat.
My word for it, look at the World Health Organization, look at the Commonwealth Fund study. It is very clear. We get draxed in almost every single way you measure. And by the way, South Park just did a piece on navigating the U.S. healthcare system and health insurance, and it is hilarious, and it is spot on.
The care they can't get in Canada, the system you profess.
Yes, I wish we had healthcare like Canada. I wish we had healthcare like Israel.
Canadians wish they had healthcare like America. But
I wish we had healthcare like Israel, where people don't
only the super mega rich ones, you prick.
Die in the street, or
I'm sorry,
have to get
I was reading something.
I wish we had healthcare like Canada. I wish we had healthcare like Israel.
Canadians wish they had healthcare like America. But
I wish we had healthcare like Israel.
No, I've never heard a Canadian that says that they wish that they had healthcare like America, because there have been efforts to try and like privatize parts of the Canadian healthcare system, but even the conservative parties that want to do that never push for that hardcore, because they'll get voted out of office, because people want their healthcare cards, right? They want to like have access to healthcare. There's a reason why they don't fix what's going on in England with their healthcare system, because people like it, and so they just keep on throwing money into it without trying to like fix the underlying problems. I mean, Jerry Johnson, like, yeah, I 100% agree. And I understand a lot about the research side of things, because I had to do a bunch of research for a debate that I had one time. Ironically, it was, or I say ironically, no, it was, I was debating against Vosh and a bunch of other lefties, and I put like 5 days of research into the, funding of research and how that affects the cost to people, like at the pharmacy, et cetera, right? So I understand how all that works, and I think that that's largely fine the way that we do it. There could be some fixes that make things a little bit more efficient and less costly, but that's like going too deep into policy on that. Like, largely it's fine. But what we need to do is we need to fix the healthcare system, not the pharmaceutical system, or like the pharmaceutical industry. We don't need to fix the like health technologies industry. We need to fix the healthcare system. You debated Vosh? I haven't seen this. It was a long time ago. And they just like hand waved literally everything that I said, and were saying like, oh, so you don't think that people who have insulin should be able, or who need insulin should be able to get it? I was like, no, I'm telling you what the best way for us in the United States to do that would be. Like, it was just like Vosh and that James from the internet continually just mischaracterizing everything that I said, while I was trying to explain to them, like, yeah, I want people to have lower healthcare. I'm not a conservative. I'm not saying that we should privatize everything. I'm saying there should be some sort of legislation that passes that regulates the healthcare industry in a way that, anyways, or the pharmaceutical industry, anyways.
Where people don't
only the super mega rich ones, you prick.
Die in the street, or have to get extremely expensive emergency care that average Americans have to pay for anyway, because they can't get preventative treatment. I think that we're the richest country in the history of the world, and there's a relationship between the visceral pushback that you get when you start bringing up Medicare for all and a wealth tax, and how popular they are, and how much
cost the American government more than the military, but the military is also bankrupting us. I agree, and I would
how much
lop it in half overnight. But you can't just end foreign military spending, or even domestic military spending would not bring our budget in line. It's the entitlement system that is causing us ruinous debt that we will pass on to our children.
Oh, shut the fuck. In other words, you got to get rid of Medicare. You got to get rid of Medicaid. You got to get rid of Social Security. That's where all the money's actually being spent. Hey, don't look at the fact that these are phenomenally successful anti-poverty programs. Don't look at the fact
they might be like somewhat successful anti-poverty programs, but also we're about to like get on it, because the cost of it is going to go up because the boomers are all retiring. So something needs to be fixed, but I'm not sure that they would ever agree with that.
The fact that people paid into it and they're getting back what they're owed. Don't look at the fact that these programs poll overwhelmingly popular. Don't look at any of that. That's where you got to cut.
The NHS, not NIH, the NHS, every year they up the funding for the NHS, but they need to streamline it so that there isn't as much like bloat. That's my understanding.
Okay, thank you, Lindsey Graham, Robbie, right? Like, how are you any different than Lindsey Graham or Mitt Romney or Chuck Grassley? This is just down the line, standard conservative republicanism. And this idea of like, oh, I'm going to represent the anti-establishment, right?
Did I already pick an attack? Oh, I did. That was dumb. Oh, well.
Like The View, and where someone like Charlemagne comes on and says...
So now they bring it back to what the original conversation was about, which is Charlemagne reversing course on Biden. And basically, they were trying to arm twist him into endorsing Biden, and he wouldn't do it. And that's what the point of this segment is. Look, there's actually a really interesting takeaway from this. It is possible to do a show that has a left-right dynamic where, in theory, the casual viewer might say, hey, they actually seem to agree on a bunch of stuff. Look, they're both criticizing Joe
populists.
Biden. They both don't like Joe Biden. So even the left and the right can get along and agree that they don't like Joe Biden. But here's the problem. That's kind of misleading because the specifics, the devil is always in the details, and the specifics are wildly different. So for example, in a left-right show, yeah, you could both bash Joe Biden, but why does the left-winger not like Joe Biden, and why does the right-winger not like Joe Biden? Well, one example that we've seen a lot recently is the left is screaming at Joe Biden, stop arming and funding a genocide. Stop greenlighting the carpet bombing of babies. Stop it.
Wow.
Stop it. Stop it. That's the left-wing perspective. What's the right-wing perspective? I'm really against Joe Biden because he's not standing by Israel enough and not sending enough money and weapons to Israel and not greenlighting enough bombings of babies. And so fundamentally, even though at the surface level it might look like, hey, look, they agree, they're bashing Joe Biden, there is no agreement there at all. And that's why I actually love this conversation, because it shows you that surface level bullshit is just bullshit. Oh, anti-establishment left and anti-establishment right agreeing. They're not agreeing. In fact, they wildly disagree, and you have to get down to the meat of it. And the point Brianna was making is like, you always say, how are you going to pay for it when it comes to Medicare for all and things of that nature? You never say, how are you going to pay for it when it's for war? And he's like, no, I still, don't want to pay for that either because of the debt or something. Okay, but then everybody on the right needs to stop making that dumb argument. Well, let's not send money to Ukraine because how the we got people here that need help. But it's like, you guys don't support any of the bills that are actually to help people here. So stop saying that. Stop saying that. Say, I have a principled disagreement with any and all government spending, because at least that's more honest. Don't use the argument, stop spending there so we can spend here, when you don't support spending here. So there's a lot of like slimy, disingenuous...
I mean, like, I agree with that take. That's like an argument against the Republican Party of 20... pre-Trump. That's the Republican Party of pre-Trump, though. Actually, no, I guess it is still kind of the Trump Republican Party, because they also want to get rid of like Social Security. They also want to like do that sort of stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, there are populist conservatives in the United States who agree with a lot of shit that you agree with. Just not for the same reasons why you agree, why you want those things.
Arguments used from this so-called anti-establishment right. What you're seeing here is there ain't no anti-establishment bone in his body, bro. And by the way, can't handle the debate when you actually get into the specifics and gets pummeled into the ground. And it's basically like Brianna is shooting fish in a barrel. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as...
Thank God that that's over. Holy... Well, welcome. For people that are new, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Kick, I'm Sondsol. I am a political science student. I like to talk about politics. I like to argue about politics. We talk about all sorts of fun things on here, like drama and politics. And I like to argue with people and chat about a lot of different things. Like, comment, and subscribe. I don't like to shill. Also,